Welcome to episode 84 of the Daniel Yoris podcast with today's guest, Julian Jagtenberg. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Joined here today by Julian Jagtenberg. Julian, thank you so much for joining me today, man.
It's my pleasure.
I hope I didn't butcher the last name too much. We were just discussing the correct pronunciation. And just for the record, tell us the correct pronunciation of your last name.
Jagtenberg.
There we go. I'm not going to try and pronounce that one because I think I could do a decent job, but I don't want to butcher it too much. So we'll go with the English washed one for this purpose of this podcast.
For sure.
Tell everybody.
Jagtenberg it is.
Yeah, there we go. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and who you are, and we'll get into all of that. But just how do you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Julian Jagtenberg. I'm the founder and CEO of Somnox, which is a company that is here to help 100 million people improve the quality of their sleep by 2030. I'm a robotics engineer from the University of Technology Delft, where I came up with an invention that helps you do breathwork exercises to calm the mind and improve the quality of your sleep. In the past 5 years, I read so much about sleep. We conducted sleep research, and I've been traveling the world speaking to many experts. And I think today we will be talking about how you can improve the quality of your sleep with some easy do-it-yourself tips and tricks to really get the power, or superpower, I should say, of what sleep really is.
Absolutely. And superpower is not, it's not a bad word to use for this because a lot of us struggle with sleep, and I know a lot of people listening to this struggle with sleep. A lot of my clients, and I'm sure that a lot of people in your world come to you. I can't sleep, Julian. I just can't sleep. I can't stay asleep. I can't fall asleep. My sleep is broken, or I just sleep, but I don't feel rested ever. And when you finally get a good night's sleep, it's like, wow, I feel like $1 million. But how do I recreate this over and over again? And it seems like something that should be so obvious because it's a basic fundamental thing that all humans do every single day for multiple hours, makes up, give or take, a third of our life, yet it's quite difficult. In your experience, why has sleep become something so difficult? Why has sleep become something that is so hard for humans, and yet animals don't struggle with sleep?
That's an excellent question. I mean, there are many theories, but I think my take on why we are sleeping so poorly, and you could say there's an epidemic, like a global sleep crisis, is because ever since the 40s, when the amount of average hours of sleep actually was in a decline. So we used to be sleeping around 7 hours on average, and actually now, this day, the average amount of hours we sleep is 6. Which is a decrease of 2 hours in total, which could be correlated with the invention of artificial lighting, technology coming into our bedroom, being exposed to blue light, being exposed to stressful notifications at 12 p.m., and having this 24/7 hustle economy where we are interconnected any time of the day, and making our parasympathetic system go into fight or flight mode all the time. So I think having this, if you compare it to, let's say, ancient times when life was much simpler compared to now, I think there's even studies that show the amount of sensory impulses now compared to then is like out of this world, right? You would only have the sun shining, and maybe there would be threats, of course, but in this day and age, the information you get through your mobile phone alone is more information that someone in ancient times would have in their entire lifetime. So our brains are overexposed, overstimulated, too much caffeine, too much whatever, and that's putting us into a place which doesn't improve or enhance sleep.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and we're always fighting against our environment, and something that I've spoken about often, even in relation just to weight gain and obesity, is that we're fighting against our environment, all these highly palatable foods, the lack of inherent movement that's in our day, or the lack of movement that's just naturally in our day. It doesn't exist anymore. We all sit at a desk and do what we do. And say sleep is the same. One of the funniest, but one of the best ways that I've ever heard this put, I believe it was Dr. Matthew Walker who said this, and probably someone who you're familiar with. And someone asked him in an interview, they said, why, can we bank sleep and why do humans sleep so poorly? And he said, as far as I can tell, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, as far as I can tell, humans are the only animals dumb enough to sacrifice sleep for other stuff. And I thought that was just such a great response.
Exactly, right? We used to say a couple of years ago, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or, it was a badge of honor to say, oh, I'm cool, I hustle my way up to the top, and I don't sleep. And I think there's now, which is a good thing, a movement going on in Silicon Valley among executives where sleep becomes a priority because, the science is very clear. You'll make poor decisions, your health is in decline, you're basically drunk all the time if you're sleep deprived, right? You have half of your brain capacity available. So, yeah, we should prioritize. And I love the paraphrase of Matthew Walker. His book is terrific, by the way.
It is. I agree with that. One thing that just came to mind. Now, you founded a company that is based in sleep, or based on trying to help us improve our sleep. Now, many founders and CEOs struggle with sleep and definitely go in that hardcore, like I sleep 4 hours a night, grind all the time. And to some degree, some say that, you have to go through those grind years and sacrifice sleep to build up the company, build up the brand, build up the whatever thing it is. And then once you kind of quote unquote make it, then you can start with the morning routine and the sleep and these kind of things. Now, I would imagine you didn't take that route because that would be counterproductive or counterintuitive to what your actual company is. So how did you start to navigate that as you're sort of building the business?
Well, the beautiful thing of building the brand that we're building is we are an advocate of great sleep. So how ironic would it be if the founder himself, wouldn't be taking that serious? And, once in the very early days of starting this business, I mean, obviously running a startup is super hard and you need to give it all you can. But I found with the books of Matthew Walker, the science that's out there, that by actually prioritizing sleep, you may not be working as many hours as the ones that go on until 4 a.m. in the morning. But I know for a fact that the quality of my decisions, the quality of my work, the productivity of work I can get done in that same hour is superior to any insomniac out there. So I think I was very much aware of sleep and how it correlates with health, physically and mental, and how it could actually be maybe a good investment also for the team. Like we even have beds in our office where you can do a power nap during the day, right? To promote that culture of rest and digest, not just at night, but also after lunch. And it might sound very different from other startups that have Red Bull and pizza and video games. We have like apple juice and bedrooms and we do breath work together in the morning. And it's so nice. I mean, it attracts talent. It attracts, a lot of good things. So I would recommend it for any startup that's thinking to win. Prioritize sleep. That's the lowest effort with the biggest ROI.
There you go. It's about efficiency and about quality of work, right? Doing some good work that might only take you 4 hours would beat doing, kind of shitty work that takes 8 hours. So I've never had a corporate job, but I've always thought there's no way that someone is sitting there plugging away at a computer for 8 to 10 hours a day and actually working productively or efficiently to any degree for that amount of time. So maybe if you get, 4 good hours out of that 8, well, what did you really do with that other 4 hours? It's kind of wasted time and you're just, taking in the blue light and the office air conditioning and being in a place you don't really want to be anyway. So if we were just a little bit more productive, and this is maybe a separate little tangent, but if we were able to just be more productive and get that stuff out there in a shorter amount of time, starting with a great night's sleep, that would probably change the world. And I don't really say that lightly either.
100%, right? I mean, it sounds cliche, but obviously it's also what most people say. The thing that we're working on will make the world a better place. And the thing is, sleep is having an impact on all parts of society, right? It's not just your health, which is like, I think 400 billion each year in healthcare costs are related to a lack of sleep in the US alone.
Wow.
Then there is tens of thousands of car accidents happening each and every year in the US alone as a result of drowsy driving versus drinking under influence, right? And third of all, it's the number one leading indicator for mental health issues like depression. And that's just those things. There's also graphs suggesting the correlation between the average amount of hours of sleep in a country and the GDP per country. So the less a country sleeps, the lower their GDP. So it's the economy, it's our health, it's our road safety, it's pretty much everything. It's a cornerstone thing. And if we can just have 1% improvement of sleep because of our existence as a company, you could have a huge resonant effect in all layers of society. And that's what makes it a very exciting space to be in, and why I'm such an advocate of spreading this education and the science that is so often neglected in the mainstream media. So yeah, happy to talk about that today.
That's so incredible. I mean, I obviously knew that sleep was important, and it's not something I've spent enough time thinking about it and know that it's important, but thinking about the grander implications of sleep and the actual cost of the healthcare and how our mental health. Something I heard about mental health the other day was that there are no, and don't nobody quote me on this, but there are no mental health conditions that are diagnosable that also have a normal sleep pattern. They all have some sort of disrupted or disordered sleep pattern. And so that's a huge one, as the mental health crisis is continually on the rise.
And just to add on that, I think that in the recent developments within psychology, where the DSM is like the main thing to diagnose mental illness, insomnia used to be an effect of, for example, depression, right? A symptom. But actually, in recent studies and in the developments, they start to find that it's not a symptom, it's the cause. And that changes the name of the game, right? Because if you treat the symptom and not the root cause, and that's why I think, again, focusing on sleep, even when treating mental health issues, is a very under-highlighted area where so much can be done. If you sleep
totally
better,
agree.
Those things will get better as well.
Yeah, and it's one of these things that, we say this and everyone will be like, yeah, I know. But you really know, you already know this, that if you have a good night's sleep, you just feel so much better. And there are people who go through sleeping 4 hours, 5 hours a night. Oh, I don't need that much. I just power through an extra coffee, a Red Bull in the afternoon or whatever it is, and I get through it. But that's not your optimal performance. That's not the best way to do it. And that's certainly not the best way for all of us across the entire population to go through life like this. There's so many implications that we're gonna get through some of those other ones, because I think another big one was the daylight savings time with the car accidents that you mentioned. That day that when daylight savings time changes, there's a lot more car accidents and heart attacks and stuff just because we all lose an hour of sleep, right?
Yep, that's correct. The data doesn't lie, right? It's the cold hard data. And there's actually many sleep scientists advocating to Congress to say, okay, we need to get rid of it. And I think that it has been this debate for years. And I think actually the recent development, they did seriously consider getting rid of it. So that's a good development. And there are scary studies out there that show the immediate effect, because I think maybe some of the listeners might think, okay, but it's only a problem if you sleep for a long time, and it's chronic. But there are studies showing that I think they had students that were doing a test, they had to remember something and then reproduce it. They divided it in two subgroups, one that would sleep 4 hours and one that would be able to sleep 8 hours. And immediately, like half of the learning capacity was gone of a single night. And the same experiment was done analyzing autoimmune cells, the things that basically fight disease, right? Like the COVID virus. Also, the prevalence of this autoimmune level was decreased as well after one night. So it's not a thing that's only if you do it for a longer time. Tonight could already be a step back in being more vulnerable to disease and so forth. Anyway, so daylight savings is something we do at scale, which we should reconsider.
Right. So much for pulling all-nighters during school to study for exams, right?
Yeah. No, so to get that out of the world, pulling all-nighters for exams is the worst thing you could do. Best thing you could do is just learn about it, go to sleep, and you will most likely succeed better than the group that doesn't.
There you go. You heard it. You heard it right there. Now, Julian, were you always a good sleeper? Because I know that you didn't start from a health background. As an engineering school is difficult, and you went to a difficult school or prestigious school. Were you an all-night studier? Did you always have a good sleep habits, or how did this interest in sleep really start to come about?
Yeah, so I mean, I have always prioritized my sleep, I would say. But the real realization and the reason why I got into sleep this deep is because a family member of mine had this issue of true insomnia. So it wasn't me who experienced the effect of a lack of sleep. It was a close family member of mine where I found how impactful it was. Because if you're sleeping well, you don't really care and it feels very normal. And people that don't sleep, you're like, hey, what's up? Nothing going on. But if you really see the impact of someone you love, what it does on energy levels, health, maybe not being able to work anymore, that's when I started to dig in. And as an engineer, I felt the obligation almost to help her, because now it was sleep medication, therapy, meditation apps, which some of them are addictive and have side effects. So I was like, okay, I'm a robotics engineer, but I have to make something to help her sleep. And that's when I went into the rabbit hole of sleep science, and I assembled a team of people with a health background. So we obtained that knowledge. So I'm from the product side, and we got it from the team. And that's where the journey started.
A true problem solver, like an engineer would be.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's so frustrating to see if solutions are limited. And I think, especially in sleep, science and technology have only just met. Up to this point, sleep was treated with medicine, therapy, and sometimes this can be the solution, but the majority of people won't be benefiting from it. So I had this frustration. There has to be an answer within science, within technology, and that's what I'm doing every day to get that out in the world and assemble the best team and create technology that might one day solve it at a global scale.
Right. It's an interesting time for these kind of things because probably the best answer to improve sleep would be to like undo the world, remove all cell phones, remove all artificial light, and like do all that stuff. But that's obviously not going to happen. So to combat like our current environment, we have to, out technology our own technology to make it more suitable for actual human life. And so, I've been someone who's probably a little bit more critical than most of wearable tech and, supplements and these kind of things. And because I always think that for the most part, there are a lot of simple lifestyle changes that one can make to help with sleep and with all other, weight loss and strength gain and all other health implications. But sometimes, these technologies and these supplements and these things really do help. So it is an interesting thing for me personally to start like coming around to and wrap my head around, like, okay, we can't just change the whole world. We can't just change how everybody acts and how and the world interacts. Like your notifications are still going to be going off. So how do we just work to fix these things using technology? So it's great that you're building this. Now tell us a little bit about what the actual product is and how it works, and then we'll kind of go backwards from there.
Yeah, so to very quickly tap into your comment about technology, and that will transfer my answer into why we are building and what it is. I think we should have the understanding that technology in a way is very harmful to our sleep, especially with indeed stressful notifications. And then we have these wearables that track your sleep, but it's not clinically accurate. And they give you data, but okay, how is the data going to help you? Right? In the end, it's about changing your lifestyle habits, having an intervention that actively does something with the data. Otherwise, it can even coin the term orthosomnia, which is sleep data of your Fitbit or a Ring or whatever, reinforcing your anxiety of getting a great sleep score. So it is counterproductive. So that's why we are building, and now we'll talk about our technology, something that goes beyond that. And it's something we call the Somnox Sleep Companion. And it's a device that uses the data of, for example, the Oura Ring you already have, and then having a pillow-like design that you hold on to, which will have the physical sensation of the falling and rising of the breath, going up, going down, in the rhythm to slow down your breathing pace. And by having that physical guidance, you will subconsciously start to adjust your breathing or respiration rates to slow down, which is a signal to your autonomic nervous system to say it's safe, It's okay to go rest and digest rather than being in this fight or flight mode that we're so often in. So the technology itself is guiding you to breathe in the right ways, sensors to detect your respiration rate, integrating with the data you may already have, and then you could even use the mobile app that comes with it, not in the bedroom itself, but during the day as a coach to give you that education. So we don't get the bedroom and the phone together. We want to get the phone out of the bedroom and have the positive parts of technology in there, which is in the device that we have created.
That's super cool. That's one thing that I've always thought strange about all the technology is it still requires you to have your phone by your bed. You know, the bedtime meditation stuff. It's like, okay, well, you're still staring at the screen right before you go to sleep. It's like, you know,
it's the same device that gives you stress with angry emails and whatever. So
exactly. Even if you turn your notifications off, do not disturb mode, you still like just having it in your hand or having it nearby is like, oh, what if? Well, let me just turn off let me just turn the notifications back on. Let me just check that one last thing before I sleep after I've done the meditation. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And I wear an Oura ring. I've had one for several years now. I've always slept well. I kind of just got it more out of curiosity and, you know, learned a few things. One thing with the breathing that I've really noticed is anytime that I don't sleep well or that I've been sick or getting sick, my breathing rate is like way higher. And it's not something you would ever notice because you don't always feel different in that one night, but if I see the data that my breathing rate was higher, I was like, okay, I definitely didn't have a good sleep. I've got to, you know, get on top of this tonight or whatever the case is. But you would never know that you were breathing faster in a way to regulate it. So having something, you know, like the Somnox to hold you and cuddle you and regulate your breathing is that would be a huge game changer for sure.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, we could go into why breathing is so powerful because people might listen and be like, yeah, but hey, I have been breathing all my life. So how is this different?
And you say, you know, you tell us.
Yeah. Well, I think that exactly as you said with what you saw at your Oura ring, it's the fact that breathing, you know, we can go without food for months. We can go out without water for weeks or days, but we can only go without our breath for a matter of minutes, yet we never learned how to breathe. And breathing is indeed an indicator of your health. It can indicate whether you get sick. When it came to COVID, there were these wearables claiming that if your breathing rate went up, hey, you might do a COVID test and it might be appearing that you were sick. That's because the breath is one of the most foundational things in your body that influences your heart rate, that influences your metabolism, that influences your autonomic nervous system. And it's the only thing we can consciously control. You can't think your heart rate to go down. You can't think your metabolism to slow down. But your breathing, you can control. And I was in touch with Wim Hof, the Iceman. He is a fellow Dutch person. And he basically also is a big advocate now, I think, teaching celebrities about this type of stuff, that through breathing, you can just unlock parts of your human capabilities that you couldn't do before. And this is no pseudoscience. Like, this is real science showing how breathing is capable of withstanding cold temperatures and remaining in ice baths for a long time. It's showing how it can, as I said before, be a remote controller for your autonomic nervous system to determine, am I in fight or flight or in rest or digest? It's a way to tap into mental health and get peace of mind. It's the fundament of meditation, right? In the end, meditation comes down to focus on your breathing. So, well, I can go on and on and on, but it's just basically there. Breathing. Yes, we do it each and every time, but especially during the night, the breath is maybe the closest thing we can control to indirectly control the quality of your sleep. And that's what our technology is trying to do, to help you do that in an easy and effective way.
I love that. Most people haven't taken a conscious breath in their entire life, which is quite sad. One thing that I do with a lot of my clients, or almost everyone, is at the end of the workout, you know, we'll just do a quick, 6 breath, inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, very, very simple. And the first time that I do it with people, it's almost always like somewhat of a profound experience where it's like, wow, I've never felt that before. It was just breathing, quote unquote, just breathing, but it felt so amazing. I feel so relaxed. I feel so, all types of different responses that are always quite remarkable. And you're right that it is the most controllable thing that we have with our sleep. Yes, we can probably try and control the temperature in our room, but if you sleep in a bed with a partner, maybe the air conditioning that you have is too loud. Maybe someone likes it hotter, someone likes it colder. There's so many other factors, and breathing is something that we can really tap into and change our entire state, our entire mood, everything about us if we really, really get into the breathing. And for some people, that might sound a little woo-woo, but like you mentioned, Julian, go look up Wim Hof and go look at all the things that he's done and proven in science, not just like, oh, this crazy guy walking in his shorts on Mount Everest, he must be different than the rest of us. No, he's taken other people and showed them or taught them his teachings, and they've had similar results. So this is something we can all tap into.
And it's not just Wim Hof, right? Because I can imagine people are like, okay, wow, that's still this old guy doing extreme things. Breathing has been there for thousands of years. It's being used in therapy. It's proven. And I mean, obviously, you need to try it. And that's when you will find out what benefits it has. And I think the easiest, quickest way to just experience the power of your breath right here, right now, is just take a deep breath in and have a sigh out. And that will instantly tell your body, like, and of course, this is very quick, whatever, but tell me something else that does that in 3 seconds.
Yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. And you're right. The breathing stuff, yes, Wim Hof has taught us, and us, but I mean, the population of the world taught us a lot. But even he says that he didn't invent these things. He just found them and found a way to popularize them. These techniques that he uses have maybe been changed and translated and altered over time, but they are thousands of years old, as are all types of meditation and yoga and exercise to varying degrees. They're thousands of years old. It's nothing new, but we're just, relearning about them as a species, as we've kind of forgot them and let them go by the wayside, more in Western culture probably than others. But they're old things, and probably one of the most human things that even exist is just paying attention to the breath. That's what gives us everything.
And I think also for people that think, okay, hey, is this heading into the path of spirituality and meditation? Not at all. I think breathing offers the perfect alternative to meditation and all the spiritual things out there, because it's so practical. It's physiology. It's about breathing in, breathing out. There's nothing about the mind and whatever. It's just breathe. Get high on your own supply, right? So, anyways, I think that's the beauty of it, and studying those principles of what is proper breathing. Just some takeaways: always breathe in through the nose. Don't use your mouth for various reasons. Prolong the exhalation to calm yourselves down. I mean, it can be used, as you said before, to change state as well. It isn't just to calm the mind and fall asleep. It can also be used to increase your performance when you're working out, right? Doing breathing exercises before. If you look at the Olympic athletes, they do breathing exercises before they go out on the game, and they do it afterwards as part of their recovery. So, it's everywhere, and it's always there. It's right under your nose. Okay.
That's the best way to put it. Right under your nose. Are you a fan of mouth taping for people who do breathe through their mouth during the night? Because that's another thing. A lot of people have this. People who snore or wake up with a really dry mouth. What are your takes on the mouth taping?
Yeah, I think it's a bit dangerous, right? So it's very popular nowadays on TikTok and Instagram for some reason. Some influencer thinks that it's a good idea, but there are real dangers to it, right? So yes, I'm a big believer in breathing through the nose. I mean, that's not something to decide, that's a fact. But by forcing it, by taping your mouth, can be quite dangerous, especially because people use types of tape that are not meant for that purpose, let's say. There are stories where people suffocate at night because of doing it. So if you do it with the right tape. Make a small hole in between, so in case it remains, you can still breathe through the tape. Be very aware, and I think that's one of those things, right? The spread of misinformation, popularizing a single experiment without the pros and cons is a dangerous development, I would say.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, whoever started to popularize this, so it worked for me, so it must work for everyone else, the same way every single named diet ever has been popularized, right? And so like, yeah, mouth taping could be good, but someone who really can't breathe through their nose and they just tape their mouth shut, well, it's like, how are you going to breathe? I think I've always thought a better way maybe to start that was using nasal strips that open up the nasal passage rather than taping the mouth. Start there, get some actual airflow through the nose, and then maybe you can work towards taping the mouth until your body gets, retrained to breathe properly.
Yeah. It's just like going to the gym. You won't be lifting the heaviest weights on day one. You will break something. You will injure yourself. The same goes for breathing. It's not an overnight success. It's something you need to train, make a habit, and that's, after consistency, that's where the value and the real gems will become visible.
That's right. So, but we need a little bit of a push because like you said, and we've said, we all sleep every single day, and a lot of us are doing it wrong. So, using something like your product would be able to start retraining the way you breathe. Now, what are the ways that it does change your breath, and what is the correct way to be breathing, cadence, and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I think there is not a universal answer to that question, because every human being has a different lung capacity, has a different emotional state. So dependent on the time of the day, gender, age, whatever, different breathing exercises and tempos are needed. That's why I don't really believe in these 4-7-8 method type of breathing styles, because again, it really depends on you as a person, what is nice and what works. So one of the breathing exercises that I think would be beneficial to train yourself is something called coherence breathing, which is an equal amount of breathing in through the nose of 5.5 seconds and breathing out through the nose for 5.5 seconds. So it's like a circular motion. And some use like an app for that is counting. But then again, different lung capacity, different time of day, different emotional state doesn't always work. So what our device does is, first of all, it's a physical guidance. So no screens, no sounds, it's physical. And we have to run scientific trials to also see how can we subconsciously influence your breathing. And actually by feeling it is the most effective way to take over the breathing pace compared to having a visual cue or compared to having an audio cue. And then the sensors detecting your breathing rate will interact with that in real time. So it's generating a personalized breathing exercise based upon whether you want to go to sleep, whether you want to relax, whether you want to be energized, and then offering you a real-time biofeedback loop of having that physical guidance of slow-paced breathing. So that's how we do it differently and how we train your breath over time to experience deeper sleep, to experience the power of what breathing brings to your overall health.
I see. So does it require a bit of a learning period where it starts to gather data about you, maybe in conjunction with another type of sleep tracker, and then it says, okay, your breathing rate is X, yet you're sleeping poorly, so we need to bring this down, rather than just like, okay, every single human must breathe at 16 breaths per minute or whatever it is. It kind of takes where you are and then tries to improve it, right?
Exactly. So that's why I said we go beyond sleep tracking. So we take data that you might already have. We look at resting heart rate variability, sleep stages, respiration rates, and you can see trends over time when using the device. And in the studies that we ran, it does take 14 nights of using our device to get to that optimum experience. So yeah, we are not a overnight one-hit wonder. But I will tell you, if something in health claims to be that, be skeptical. Because most things when it comes to health and changing your weight, changing the amount of muscle, it takes motivation, dedication. Same goes for our technology. But it's natural, it's effective, and it's safe and easy compared to the chemicals that will put you to sleep in an instant. But oh boy, you don't want to know what all those chemicals have as side effects and addictive elements to it. So yeah,
I'm so happy you said that, because if you were going to sit here and tell me that like and my product works in the first night and everyone will sleep better. Like, that's very hard to believe, right? And anyone who claims that about anything, like, it's not. There's way too much variability across the human population for any one device or piece of technology to just universally work immediately for everyone. There's almost nothing that would. Maybe the medications will have a certain immediate effect, but like you just said, not what you want, and certainly not long term.
It's fake sleep.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, I think that's the problem in this world, that, you know, in marketing, obviously it's much more attractive to yell, yeah, this puts you to sleep instantly within 8 minutes and la la la. That's what people buy, unfortunately. But most of it is you're being sold crap. And I'm trying to be as honest as possible, looking at the science we have, and say, okay, yeah, I have to be honest. From a marketing perspective, it's not as attractive, but at least I know what I'm saying and what you can expect.
Yeah, at least,
and it goes for every intervention. Yeah,
that's right. And you know that you're helping people with little to no side effects, and the alternative has a lot of potential side effects. And I can say that because I'm not you, so no one can really come after me. But it's like these sleep medications are Band-Aids at best. My understanding of them is essentially how it works. To kind of like, you know, sum it up in a easy to understand sentence, is it almost like knocks you out, but you're not really asleep. You're not really getting rested. It's not that much different almost than being drunk and falling asleep. And that's what people are doing every single night. Is that so incorrect to say?
Well, I mean, obviously it's a little bit black and white, all or nothing statement, but yeah, I would agree with that. And I think just to make sure, I think most of the listeners know, sleep is not a binary state. You're not asleep or awake. That's what most of the society thinks when drinking alcohol to get to sleep or taking a pill, because hey, I'm asleep. But guess what? Sleep is not binary. It has variant gradients, right? You have deep sleep, light sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, go on and on. You need to cycle through all those stages of sleep to obtain physical and mental recovery. If you drink alcohol, you will only have light sleep and you won't have any physical recovery. So that's why I had to generalize all of it. It's fake sleep. Don't fool yourself. Don't harm yourself, and educate oneself and see what works for you to do so. And I do think, and that's why I'm a big believer in this, first start educating yourself about sleep before buying all of these things, including our thing. Educate yourself. Only after you have tried those simple lifestyle things like a regular sleep schedule, going to the same time to bed in the weekdays and weekend days, no caffeine, no smartphone, etc. Only then you should consider using devices like ours to really deepen the quality of sleep and go next level. But it starts with education and awareness. And I hope that this podcast today, well, helps maybe some people do that.
I'm sure it will. And I'm so happy that you said that, because that's, you know, I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier. That's kind of how my approach is to everything. Like, let's fix the lifestyle things that we can fix first. And then we can start to talk about technologies to add and supplements and, you know, other stuff to add in. But if you're going to, you know, take a pill or use the Somnox and be on TikTok scrolling for 30 minutes in your bed with your phone 3 inches away from your face, and you had a coffee at, you know, 9 p.m., it might help, but not really. It's not really moving the needle all that much. You can't outdo all that bad stuff. So it has to start with your actions. And unfortunately, that's the hardest part of it, but it's the biggest needle mover and the most important thing that we have to do.
Yeah. So that's why we also try to position ourselves not as the hero, right? The person that wants to improve their sleep, that's the hero. And we as a company are like the guide to get you there, to change your lifestyle, to have a tool at night when you are anxious and awake and whatever. You are the one that have to do it, sir. and we'll give you the tools and the education and the science to help you get there, because you can't do it alone. It's hard. So let's do it together.
There we go.
Yeah.
So what would be your top 3? And I know it's kind of hard to generalize it, and you don't have to limit this to 3, but like, what would be your top tips for people to start to change in their lifestyle habits to actually start to sleep better?
Okay, so I think the one I already mentioned, and I will just repeat it, is a regular sleep schedule. So same bedtime, same wake up time, each and every day. Obviously, there can be an exception once in a while, but make it a practice to go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time. Why is this so important? Because your sleep, as we already touched upon, is highly dependent on light exposure. Right? That's why the whole daylight savings thing is ruining with our sleep, because light is messing with our brain. Humans and animals and the whole nature is in this cycle of the sun going up and down, right? That's human nature. That is nature in its essence. So being aware of light exposure is a very powerful way. So the second tip would be the first thing you do when you wake up is get direct sunlight. So no artificial light, direct sunlight is much more powerful in your eyelids, so no sunglasses, because that will reset your sleep schedule, get your circadian rhythm in place, and that will give your natural melatonin production rather than having a melatonin pill, right? Your body is capable of producing that yourself if you didn't know that. So, and you can do that by the proper light exposure timings, especially in the morning. Something else that I would maybe consider that is maybe not already known, more like a contrarian sleep tip, I would say, is your relationship with sleep. And it's like a flaky friend, right? Sometimes she or he will come and it will be a nice time, but sometimes he won't. She won't be there, and it's okay. It's impossible to optimize your bedroom or buy technology or have all the science in the world to have each and every day the most perfect sleep in the world. It's impossible. So by accepting this flaky relationship, so to speak, and accepting it, acknowledging it rather than enforcing it and resisting it, because if you start to do that, that's where you start to create insomnia for real, because your psychology towards your bedroom will be really ruined. Your whole understanding of, oh, I'm scared to go to bed right now. So just accept it when it comes, when it goes. But yeah, you can, of course, invest in a relationship and make it a bit more trustworthy. I think that's important to have that understanding and not say to yourself, I have to sleep 8 hours each night. Otherwise I'm ruined. No, everyone doesn't sleep that well every once in a while, and that's fine. Deal with it. Go on, and the next day you can try it.
Right. It's like paying too much attention to the data from the ring, from the bracelet, from the whatever, and it says that, oh, you didn't sleep good, so tonight you must go to sleep at this time, but you can't really do that tonight, or whatever it is, and we get too caught up in these things. And the same thing is true with exercise in the gym. Oh, I missed a day of exercise today, so therefore I've lost all my gains. And we know that that's not true, but we convince ourselves that these things are true. So maybe get your opinion on this one. Some people say that they're a bad sleeper. It's the same kind of thing as saying, I'm bad at remembering people's names, or I'm bad at, I can't think of another example, but I'm a bad sleeper. If we just flip that script in our mind and start telling ourselves, no, I'm a great sleeper. We kind of use the placebo effect to our advantage. We start to have a better relationship with sleep, most likely, and we would actually just start to sleep better because we're less stressed about sleeping.
100%. And I think, reading the book Atomic Habits by James Clear made that very clear, right? If you want to change your life, you need to have micro changes and change habits. And that starts by having an identity. And if you identify with being a poor sleeper, if you identify with someone who isn't good in exercise, if you identify with someone, I can't cook food, you'll never be able to do it. Stop saying it, and maybe even having these affirmations, like maybe saying I'm a good sleeper is maybe a little bit too much, but having someone that says, yeah, I'm okay with sleep. Happens to me. I try to. We'll see. Will change probably the quality of sleep. It doesn't cost anything. It's just an affirmation trick. Yeah.
The difficult part of that is it just comes down to effort and changing our own mind. Someone who identifies as a poor sleeper has probably done so for years, if not their entire adult life, since they were conscious enough to think about it. And flipping that script is very easy. So, when Julian and I are saying these words, it sounds, we understand that it's a lot easier said than done, but starting to work on changing your identity to transition to be a good sleeper would be a huge step.
100%. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but I think confirming that you are a bad sleeper won't help. So either stop saying that, and start looking into solutions and educating oneself. Because I understand it. Most people that can't sleep have tried absolutely everything. They're sick and tired of being sick and tired. So why would this trick help me? Or why would that advice help me? Yeah, that's because it is complicated, but it's about having hope and trying things, experimenting with things, connecting with others, and being honest with yourself. What is the root cause behind the reason I can't sleep? And that's where technology can help you. It can tell you with data what's going on. It can see, and I hope that gives just a little bit of hope to the people that feel desperate out there that, yeah, you'll get there. It's a step-by-step micro change approach to have huge results in the long term.
I think you nailed it there. People have tried a lot of things, but taking the onus on themselves, the personal responsibility to change you, the person. You don't need more stuff. You don't need another piece of technology right now. You don't need a new supplement, a stronger dose of melatonin, some other whatever it is. That's not what you need. You need to kind of look yourself in the mirror and be like, I really need to get off my phone before bed. I really need to get some daytime light on my skin and in my eyes. I need to move my body during the day. These kind of things. I need to have a bedtime. I know you're not 6 years old anymore, but you still need to have a bedtime. And these are the things that are so difficult. And it always comes down to this. It's easier said than done, but this is the true way to help with this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where you start. And then the tools, like the trackers, like the thing that we create, are great tools to make that process easier. Right? It's just like having a coach when you are in the gym. You will show up. You will have better exercise rather than doing it on your own. And I think that's the right way to look at it. It's not unneeded, but it's a supportive tool to probably reach your goals faster, more enjoyable, and reap the benefits as well. Yeah, that's I think
Absolutely.
The right way to look at it. Yeah,
absolutely. And since you brought up the gym, what are some of the implications of exercise on sleep? Of course, exercise is healthy for us, but should we be exercising later at night, earlier in the morning? Does it matter? How does exercise and sleep interrelate?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say. I mean, there are some papers that suggest that doing exercise very prior to bedtime isn't a good thing. So I would avoid at least 2 to 3 hours before bedtime having your latest heart rate zone 3 exercise, because exercise is going back to what we just talked about. If you are exercising, you are high heart rate. Therefore, the sympathetic part of your autonomic nervous system, which is where you are alert, you are running, high heart rate, etc., etc. And sleep is all the way on the other side of the autonomic nervous system, which is slow heart rate, slow breathing, etc., etc. So, yeah, don't do it prior to bedtime. However, exercise is actually hugely beneficial to improve the quality of sleep if done at the right time of the day. There are studies that show the amount of deep sleep that you experience is correlated to the average interval of body temperature. And the bigger the interval between your highest body temperature during the day and when it cools down during the night, the more deep sleep you experience. And you can increase your body temperature by doing, guess what? Exercise. So if you do exercise during the day, which with all the benefits that exercise already has, we won't go into that. We're talking about sleep now. The body temperature will rise. Therefore, the decrease in the temperature during the night will improve deep sleep. And deep sleep that's where quality sleep is. That's what you refer to when you really feel rested. If you had that deep sleep, during the night. So that would be my take on exercise. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I've always kind of said the same. And again, just like anecdotally for myself and my clients, if we work out late at night and you go to bed, you don't feel really rested. You feel like you want to go to bed a little bit later, and then that, has trickle down effects as we've talked about. But at the same time, I would probably say if your only time to exercise is kind of close to bedtime, if it's that or nothing, number one, try and look at your lifestyle. And I don't mean to be like a little bit facetious about that, but try and look at your lifestyle and see if that really is the only time to work out. But if it really is, then, still get some exercise in, because a little bit is better than nothing. We've got to kind of do all of the things, right?
Yeah, and I think it also really depends on the type of exercise, right? Because what I'm referring to is really the Heart Zone 3 type of exercise, like running and really high intensity workouts. But maybe if it's lifting weights, you could probably do it if you have a busy life, so you can only do it at 9 p.m. at night and lift some weights with low heart rates. That wouldn't maybe be too impactful on your sleep. But it's really about staying in that rest and digest mode before going to sleep. That's what you want to achieve. So if you can have that in any other way, by, for example, doing these breathwork exercises, that will really accelerate that process.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one thing that always comes up, and I'm sure you've heard this a million times. People say, I only sleep 6 hours, but I nap every day. Is that a good thing? Does that equal out?
Also, I don't think the science is super clear on this. Like there's papers on both sides of the spectrum, when it comes to these statements. If we look at animals, for example, they are the perfect example of sleeping throughout the day, and they're fine. And I mean, Leonardo da Vinci was one of the people that slept every hour, 20 minutes, and he didn't have this 8-hour fixed amount of sleep at night. There's even stories going back that when we were still living in caves, and there were people in the tribe that had to guard the tribe at night for lions.
Right.
Those are the genes that are now people that tend to wake up at night. And there's the people that had to hunt during the day that are more prone to staying awake during the day. So, it's very much in our genes. I think looking up your chronotype can be useful. Chronotype is basically finding out what type of genes you have that state how you should be sleeping. There's many online tools for that to find out what you are. Just find chronotype and you'll get there. And it's cultural. If you look at Spain and other countries, they have siesta, and it works great for them because also work, and I think this is more a societal thing, facilitates it. Ever since the Industrial Revolution, at a certain point, from 9 to 5, we're working from Monday to Friday, and then it was ideal to have society sleep at night because then you couldn't be productive, you couldn't have labor. So that 8-hour statement is also a little bit, I would say, Industrial Revolution type of heritage we still have. So also there, look what works for you. And to just maybe conclude on that, there's something called sleep depth. So don't think that you can catch up with sleep during the weekends just by sleeping a little, sleeping in or sleeping during the day. It doesn't work like that.
Unfortunately.
So yeah, I can go on and on, but I think that's the premise. Yeah.
No, it makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, the 8 hours thing, when we start to think about, and maybe this is getting a little bit conspiracy theory and labor unions and, work in 8-hour shifts. And so why is it 8 hours? Because, it's my understanding that the full sleep cycle is roughly an hour and a half. And of course there are, variances between people, but then, if you just do some basic math, and I'm no mathematician, but an hour and a half times whatever doesn't ever equal up to 8. So it's like 7.5 or 9. Now, maybe you aim for 8, you toss and turn for 15 minutes, you wake up a little bit earlier, your sleep cycle is an hour and, 37 minutes. So you're pretty well getting there. But that kind of makes a little bit more sense to me, is aiming for that 7.5 or 9. And in my experience, again, I've always had better sleep when I hit those targets rather than waking up mid-cycle.
Yeah, and I think last but not least, what many people do not know is the sleep efficiency. If you go to bed at 11 p.m. and you wake up at 6 a.m., it doesn't mean that you have been sleeping for 7 hours. You have been in bed for 7 hours. So you have to take that buffer, so to speak, and maybe add at least 1 hour or subtract 1 hour of the bedtime you have versus the actual sleep time you have. And that's where trackers can be useful to see what that is for you. and then start adjusting, doing experiments to see how it improves the efficiency.
Yeah, being on TikTok in your bed is not actually sleeping, unfortunately.
Exactly. Surprise!
Surprise! Yeah.
Yeah.
With the napping, do you have any best practices for napping? I've always tried to do power naps and cut it off before 20 minutes before I enter the deep sleep. Do you have any best practices or strategies for napping?
I mean, this is pseudoscience, so I will just have an anecdotal, and is one, what I do is I take an espresso, right?
Yes.
I take an espresso. I go to sleep for 25 minutes. Then the caffeine hits my blood circulation. Not when I drink it, but after roughly half an hour. And then boom, I'm awake. I don't feel drowsy as you would wake up from a bad nightmare or something. And you get the benefit of caffeine and sleep. That's my go-to nap ritual.
The espresso nap. I'll N of two that, because I do the same thing, and people are like, "Well, that doesn't make any sense. How can you do that?" I'm like, "Just try it. I promise you, it's gonna work." Yeah. For me, it works. I don't do it every day, but it works almost every single time that I do it. I feel amazing. You just kick yourself out of that sleep right before you get into the deep sleep, and then the coffee kicks in, and it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. But be careful. I wouldn't advise doing it after 2 p.m., right? Because the breakdown time of caffeine is 14 or 12 hours.
Yeah.
So it's fine for afternoon naps, but if you want to nap at 4 p.m., don't do it anymore, because then it will ruin the quality of sleep during the night. Right. So
yes, good amendment there for sure. I was one of the people who always thought that, I can have coffee and go to sleep. I can have an espresso at 9 p.m. and go to sleep. And it is true that I can have an espresso and fall asleep and then sleep through the night and, whatever. But then when I started, I've always been a good sleeper, but then when I started using the Oura Ring a few years ago, I started to notice that when I had coffee late at night, it really would affect my sleep. And then I maybe self-fulfilling prophecy myself into this thought where I would do that and I would see the score would be lower and I would kind of feel shittier, even though I didn't feel shitty before I saw the score. But I certainly, all the numbers would suggest that I didn't sleep as well. So even if you are the person, and people who follow me know that I love coffee and drink coffee every day and all this stuff, but I don't have coffee late into the afternoon because it's going to affect my sleep. Whether you think it is or not, it's happening, unfortunately.
And I think this is funny, right? People need a sleep tracker to confirm insights that are already well known. Yeah. I mean, you knew that drinking caffeine wasn't good for you. You knew drinking alcohol wasn't good for you. But only when we track it, that's when we see, oh wow, yeah, this is actually true.
Yeah, it's I knew that based on my knowledge and things that I had read, and I knew that it wasn't good for me, but I refused to believe it until I saw that number on the ring. And I was like, ah, shit. All right, it's true.
And I think this is something I really want to stress, because there's research being done that showed that many people are actually fully aware of all the things we have just been spoken about. Mm-hmm. But there's a very big difference between knowledge and understanding.
Absolutely.
Everyone knows smartphone in their bedroom is a terrible idea, yet everyone does it. Everyone knows that drinking caffeine is bad for your health. Well, maybe not everyone, but let's say most people. But they don't do it. So to transfer from knowledge to understanding, it requires experimentation, awareness, and feedback. And that's the spot we want to be. And so if you say, I have tried everything, I dare to say, did you try everything? Or do you think you know everything, but you don't understand if it really works? That's an important nuance to make.
No, I 100% agree with that. And I'm so happy that you said that, because it's true with sleep and it's true across the board. We all know what healthy food is. If you put 2 plates of food in front of people, a salad and a, cheeseburger and whatever, fries, stuff, everyone knows which one of those things is healthier. But why do we not always choose the better option? Same with our sleep. Why do we bring the phone in the bed? Why do we do all of these things? Well, these are the hard questions that we really have to answer. And it comes to awareness, being aware of what we're doing, because so much of our behavior becomes unconscious. It's just what I do. It's because of the kids. It's because of my partner. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But really, you've got to do it.
And I think, just to very shortly tap into that is because our brain craves short-term dopamine. And with technology and the billion-dollar algorithms trying to make advertisements and getting you to engage, they are mastered in getting dopamine and getting you addicted to whatever it is. Cheeseburger, short-term pleasure, long-term downfall. Salad, short-term not so tasty, but long-term beneficial. And I think this is where whole Daniel Kahneman with System 1 and 2 thinking taps in. As humans, we're like monkeys, right? We just go for the first thing that's most satisfying and most easy, the path of least resistance. And I think only when you have this habit, again, awareness and so forth, that's when you start not only, if you had the cheeseburger or the salad, you naturally nudge towards the salad because your body craves it because it has experienced the long-term benefit. And you will identify with an athlete rather than a fast food junk.
Exactly.
So
this is why I'm very critical. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that was it.
I was gonna say I'm always very critical of people who say I've tried everything for sleep, for weight loss, for whatever, because these things are difficult, yes, but they are not rocket science. Like, and we're speaking to a robotics engineer, where these are not rocket science things. There are simple but difficult things that can be done to fix this. And so if you truly tried everything, 99% would have solved the issue, whether that be weight, whether that be sleep, you would have solved the issue. And if you didn't, and you really tried everything, then there's something seriously wrong, and you are a massive outlier of the population. Not 99% of the population. You are 0.1% of the population if you've tried everything and can't sleep and can't lose weight. It's just not how it works.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, and let's be clear about that. There's medical conditions where you simply need medical aid, like sleep apnea, restless legs. That's very real and very prevalent, and that's need a certain type of treatment.
Of course.
All the things that we just talked about is preventing those things from happening. Because also sleep apnea usually is a result of being too fat. And you can prevent that by eating healthy and by sleeping better. So, it's all about implementing all these things as soon as possible, even when you are already healthy, to prevent all those other things from happening. And that's when, indeed, 99% of the population won't even have the situation of trying everything and, then it's being an outlier. So, yeah.
Yeah. We're just very interesting creatures, humans, and our motivations and our psychology. It's always like fascinating to me about how people think about things and how, and we say people, and I'm not speaking to you, whoever is listening to this right now. This is a very general statement across the entire society. Like 40%, over 40% of Americans are obese currently. Like that is not normal in any way. And so when we speak, it's in these general terms. If we were having a one-on-one conversation, it would be a little bit different. But we all have to take personal responsibility for whatever's happening in our own life, in our own body, and our own health, and then make those changes. There's just nothing that can solve it for us. And I don't know how many times we can say that in different ways, but I hope that this is the one that finally gets through to you.
Yes.
So
preach.
There we go. Julian, this has been amazing, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. I appreciate you joining us this evening from Holland. So tell us a little bit, where can people find the product? Where can people follow you, learn more, availability, these kind of things?
Yeah, so you can look for somnox.com. That's SOMNOX.com. Maybe we can provide a link in the description. And well, first of all, we publish a lot of scientific blog posts about what you can do, very practical tips. So you can start there. We also created a sleep quiz that you can take to determine your chronotype and what is needed for you, and whether our device will be effective for you or not. So it's like a 5-step quiz you take, and it will give you understanding whether it is suitable for your situation. So please do so. Check it out, and you can try it for 30 nights. So if it doesn't work, you get a full refund. So you only pay when you really improve your sleep. I think that's important to mention.
There you go. Very fair, very bold, very confident of you, and rightfully so. So that's awesome. Julian, is there anything else that, by the way, is it available worldwide? most of my audience is Canadian in North America, but is it available worldwide?
It's available in the US and Canada, North America and Europe. If you order from there, it's available. Yeah, rest of the world not yet. And we just launched in the US, so it's an exciting time.
It is. No, I'm super excited to see how the product grows and just to see how it continues to help people and really impact the world. We said at the beginning, this is a world changing thing, and that's not something to say very lightly, but it's true. So thank you for building this. Yeah,
my pleasure. And all I can say is sleep well.
There we go. Is there any other last message? All the links will be in the show notes. Any other last message you want to leave the people with here?
Let me think about that one. I think there were some golden nuggets in our conversation. So maybe share this with a friend that you think could use this. That would be my add-on. I think everyone knows someone that is currently going through a rough time, and most likely they're not sleeping well, and most likely this podcast can help them. So, sharing something takes 2 seconds of your time, and it might just change the life. So that's my call to action.
There we go. Beautiful, beautiful. Well said. Thank you so much, Julian. I really appreciate your time, and thank you again for creating this and sharing your knowledge and experience and lessons with us. And again, to everyone listening, please share this with a friend. If it doesn't help yourself, if you sleep great, maybe you can still improve and take some things from this episode. But certainly we all know someone who can benefit from this. So please take the time, the seconds to share it, to rate and review the podcast, subscribe on YouTube. All of those things just helps to get this message out there. Not an egotistical thing at all. I really don't care other than helping people. So let's just help get it out there. Somnox.sleep on Instagram. I'll put all the other show notes or the links in the show notes. Daniel Yoris on Instagram. Do you publish stuff on your personal Instagram as well, Julian?
On my personal Instagram, no, I don't look at it. I try to avoid.
Then we don't need to let people know. Perfect. Somnox.sleep on Instagram, Daniel Yoris on Instagram, and find the podcast everywhere. Share with a friend. That's it. I appreciate each and every one of you. Have a great sleep tonight. Go outside, take your shoes off, exercise, and sleep well.